It was Tuesday morning, and I stepped into the elevator and touched the third floor button. But wait, a man's hand caught the door, a white man's hand, and he stepped into the elevator. He was wearing a suit and carrying a black briefcase. I touched the button again, and the Spirit said to me, "He's here for you." Oh, my stomach felt queasy. Here for me? And before I knew it, the elevator door opened on 3. I stepped out, and sure enough, the man in the suit also stepped out. I made it back to my office as quick as I could and tried to get settled for the day. And the phone rang. I was being summoned to Dr. C's office, my boss. I walked up the hallway, butterflies in my stomach. I entered the office and I was asked to take a seat. The man in the suit said he was a lawyer. And he spoke. "Miss Chisum, Dr. C saw you at O'Hare Airport last week. Can you tell us why you were there?" I said, "I told Dr. C I was at O'Hare because I was on my way to Ohio to a nursing conference. I was asked to speak on pregnancy and addiction." And he said, "Miss Chisum, you cannot schedule any outside speaking engagements and work at this organization." I said, "I work for this organization 50% time. You cannot control my time." He said, "Miss Chisum, you have a choice. You can work for this organization 50% time with no outside speaking engagements, or you can terminate your employment." I took a deep breath. And I got up out of my seat and I said, "I will talk to my husband about this and get back to you." I went to my office. I called my husband. I told him what had just taken place. My husband said, "Gay, you can resign right now. They cannot control your private time. And God has already showed you your skills and your knowledge are in demand." Well, I typed my resignation and I went back into the office and I handed Dr. C my resignation. He was stunned. He never thought I would resign. I turned around without any conversation and went straight to the elevator, pushed 1, and I was out of there. But I must say, as I began to walk away from the building, I was feeling something. I was definitely in my feelings of hurt, anger, and disappointment. I couldn't believe he did that. He called a lawyer? We had known each other for years and had worked together, had a great working relationship. He had been my children's pediatrician, and he had invited my husband and I to his son's bar mitzvah. Was this really happening? Well, I recognize that man might make it for bad, but God will turn it around for good. And so I had to focus forward. I had to think about my future. And so as I began to go home, I started thinking about the possibilities of starting my own business. And I thought about, I'll need a file cabinet, and I'll need answering machine and a new line for the phone in the house. I was getting excited. Now, I knew about providing the education that I needed to provide, but I didn't know so much about the business end. But I knew my husband had my back. He would help me because he was a regional manager for an educational sales company, and he knew all about setting up a home office for a business. Well, I thought also about my name. Yes, I'm going to need business cards, but what is my name? And so I thought perinatal will cover my focus on pregnant and parenting women. Addiction, yes, that's my specialty. Education and consulting. So I decided my name would be perinatal, addiction, education, consultants. And before I knew it, I was off and running. I was receiving phone calls asking for consultation from DCFS. I was asked to provide trainings for nurses and social workers and also substance abuse counselors. It was surreal. Was this really happening? And I felt humbled that I would have the opportunity to make an impact with nurses and social workers and substance abuse counselors, so they in turn could give the best treatment possible to pregnant and parenting chemically dependent women and their children. And so I began traveling in state and out of state around the country, providing consultation and education. Now, that wasn't always easy. It was difficult being away from my daughters and my husband, in and out of airports, in and out of planes, in and out of cabs, eating alone at night. And I came in contact with racism. I remember meeting Jesse Helms. I was at a university in the South, and I walked up on Jesse Helms and the conference organizers. And as I got close to him, I could see his face was red as a beet. Apparently, someone did not tell him that a Black woman from Chicago would be the keynote speaker. So I politely extended my hand, but he looked at me and refused to shake my hand. Well, that was a little challenging, but I wasn't there to deal with him and racism. So I walked right into the auditorium and gave my speech. Well, over 10 years, I continued to consult and to provide education. But then God called me out of the world. I was called into ministry. That was difficult because I didn't believe that I would be called into ministry. My husband had been pastoring for 10 years, and I felt ministry was for him. Running my business was for me. I was in my niche. I was comfortable, but God had other plans. And I struggled and I fought. But you know, there's a saying, your arms are too short to box with God. And so I surrendered. I accepted my calling into ministry. And so the last presentation I gave was in North Carolina at a women's conference. And I told the audience, I'm leaving the field of addiction. I'm closing my practice and I'm going into ministry. I have been called. The conference organizer said, Gay, you have always been in ministry. And so we need to recognize that there are situations that will propel us along our journey. And chapters will close, sometimes with a period, sometimes with an exclamation point. And doors will close. Several doors will close before we step into our true destiny. Thank you.